Have you ever wondered why so many cross-cultural relationships seem to stumble before they even really begin? Well, today we're breaking down a fascinating and honestly deeply complex topic, the unspoken realities and hidden fears that Filipinas face when dating foreign men. We are going way past the surface level tourist trap experiences to uncover the genuine and very often misunderstood cultural dynamics at play here.
Right off the bat, we've got to tackle a major pervasive stereotype head-on. Many foreigners arrive in the Philippines expecting an easy romance, harboring this incredibly outdated savior complex. There's this unspoken assumption floating around that women there are simply desperate to be rescued, or that they're just eagerly waiting for a foreigner to swoop in and sweep them off their feet. But is that actually the truth? Let's look at the facts.
We can immediately strike down that illusion. Get this. Today, women actually outnumber men in Philippine college enrollment, and the country consistently ranks near the top in Asia for gender equality. It's a real game changer. Modern Filipinas are educated, financially aware, and highly capable. So when a Filipina hesitates to date a foreigner, her hesitation is absolutely not coming from insecurity or a lack of options. It's discernment. She's actively, carefully weighing very real risks.
So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to cover expectation versus reality, intimacy and communication clashes, family values, stigmas, the fear of uneven power, and finally, building mutual understanding. Let's jump right into it.
Kicking things off with Section 1, expectation versus reality, and discerning the illusion. Look, when a Filipina seems withdrawn or cautious early on, she isn't playing games with you. She is just being smart. She's carefully weighing the risks she has personally observed. You know, cautionary tales of broken promises and abandoned partners travel like wildfire in close-knit communities. She's looking at those past examples and quietly asking herself, are you actually taking me seriously, or am I just some temporary vacation romance that you'll completely forget about the second you fly home? Moving on to Section 2, let's look at intimacy and communication clashes, which are basically the early dating hurdles. There's often a massive disconnect in expectations here, and it's a real stumbling block. A foreigner might view early physical intimacy as just standard, casual dating fun, just a way to see if there's a spark, right? But for many conservative Filipinas, sex is a serious milestone that carries intense cultural weight. They fear that giving in early shifts the entire power balance. Because think about it, if the relationship fails after that point, they are the ones left carrying the heavy burden of cultural shame, not the foreigner.
But it goes way beyond physical intimacy. There is a massive communication gap too. Imagine being in a situation where you constantly have to read between the lines just to figure out how someone feels. To understand why simple conversations can suddenly turn into huge arguments, we absolutely must recognize that the Philippines is a high-context culture. People are taught from a very young age to soften confrontation. They prioritize social harmony over blunt, direct truth.
And you can see how this builds a massive barrier. A Filipina might say, "I'm fine," when she is actually deeply hurt, simply trying to keep the peace and avoid a scene. But a low-context Westerner, he takes "I'm fine" completely literally. So when the real emotions inevitably spill over later, the Westerner feels like she was being dishonest or manipulative, while she feels he's being incredibly harsh, unfeeling, and totally blind to her unspoken cues.
Now here's another huge hurdle, the language barrier. But actually, scratch that. It's not for the reason you might think. The intense fear many Filipinas have of speaking English isn't about failing to meet a foreigner's standards. I mean, most foreigners just care about basic communication. The anxiety actually stems from a deeply ingrained local pressure where making grammar mistakes is publicly mocked. It's a phenomenon known locally as smart shaming, and it literally makes every casual conversation feel like a high-stakes oral exam.
All right, let's peel back another layer with Section 3, family values and culture, or the deeper divide. A perfect example of this cultural clash is how the two sides view elder care. A foreigner casually mentioning putting their parents in a nursing home sounds incredibly efficient and logical to a Western mind. But to a Filipina, who is raised to believe aging parents are a shared family responsibility, that concept sounds incredibly cold. For her, integrating into the family isn't just a nice bonus for the weekends. It is a foundational pillar of her life and her entire future.
And navigating all this creates something known as the invisibility gap. She is constantly translating her humor, her tone, and her reactions just to fit into her partner's world. And truthfully, foreign partners experience this exact same isolation when they visit her family. It creates a profound loneliness for both sides. It's that anxiety of being physically present in the room at social gatherings, but feeling like you are always a half step behind and never fully seen or understood.
That brings us to Section 4, Stigmas and Beauty Standards, where we look at the intense external pressures. This one is just an incredibly heavy burden. Regardless of her education or her income level, a Filipina dating a foreigner faces a cruel, widely normalized societal stigma. People jump straight to questioning her motives. They often automatically assume she's just looking for a visa or a paycheck, which completely invalidates her actual feelings. And her very real fear is knowing she's going to carry all of that societal blame alone if the relationship ultimately fails.
To truly grasp where a Filipina's personal insecurities might come from, we have to talk about colorism. This is a societal standard planted really early on by family praise and media that heavily favors lighter skin tones and Eurocentric features. It is a harsh prejudice that makes those with darker skin feel chronically overlooked, undervalued, and deemed less attractive right in their very own country. That kind of conditioning leaves deep, lasting scars on a person's self-esteem.
So because of those deeply ingrained beauty standards, a foreigner's genuine fascination can completely backfire. Being called exotic rarely feels like a compliment to her. Instead, it kind of strips away her humanity. It makes her fear she's just being categorized as a novelty, an exotic prize, rather than being loved as a whole complex person. She worries she'll simply be discarded the moment she becomes inconvenient or when the whole novelty factor inevitably wears off.
Now we arrive at the heaviest part, Section 5, the fear of uneven power, focusing on the deep-rooted fears.
Especially in long-distance setups, there is a very real fear of just gambling away crucial time. Social reputation and fertility timelines are firmly on the line. She fears being kept on the hook as a convenient temporary option, fully knowing the foreigner often has an abundance of attention back home. The anxiety of being easily replaced by another Filipina at any moment hangs over the relationship, making true security feel almost impossible to achieve.
We also have to confront the very real fear of abuse. High-profile public cases involving wealthy, visible actresses like Poke Wong and Melanie Martinez serve as quiet but incredibly powerful warnings to everyday citizens. These stories show that if visible, financially independent women can be victimized or emotionally controlled by foreign partners, ordinary women who are crossing borders and leaving their support systems behind are incredibly vulnerable to the exact same dangers.
Control often takes the form of financial dominance and extreme isolation. Think about it. When one partner holds all the money, the mobility, and the legal power in a foreign country, leaving a bad situation becomes vastly harder than staying. And it is important to impartially note that manipulative trapping tactics like hiding passports, creating extreme financial dependence, or forced pregnancies to lock someone down are real, terrifying issues that can originate from either side of this dynamic.
Finally, we reach Section 6, Building Mutual Understanding, where we have to choose empathy over fantasy.
Look, if you're a foreigner stepping into this dynamic, recognizing these anxieties does not mean you're being attacked or blamed for them. It is all about empathy. When you understand that our hesitation comes from very real stories and totally valid fears, you create a safe space. Acknowledging this transforms what could easily become a toxic power struggle into a healthy, thriving relationship built on clarity, respect, and mutual free choice.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on regarding your own cross-cultural dynamics. Ask yourself truthfully, are you building a connection based on an easy, convenient fantasy, or are you doing the real work to build true mutual understanding? Taking the time to really grasp these hidden fears makes all the difference in the world. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and remember, always keep seeking the truth behind the surface.